Good evening, everyone. My name is Benjamin, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the swing state of Colorado today. Uh, as I said, and this is in anticipation or talking about the swing states this election and some dynamics that might be involved in trying to figure out what's going to happen. Now, the I believe it was on Wednesday when I talked about possible third party routes to the presidency, or which is going to take a lot of time, obviously. There's one group that I did forget to mention that might be open to third parties a little bit more than other groups, and that's Native Americans, for a lot of reasons, and I think the Libertarian Party could actually do really well picking them up, or at least campaigning towards them, because they want to limit the power of the federal government, and considering the history of the federal government in relation to Native Americans, it should, in theory, be an easy sell to make. But, there's a lot of other factors that are in play, and Native Americans are a very small group in the American electorate, but they are kind of important in the Southwest, the Northern Great Plains, Alaska especially. So you definitely need to make some sort of play for this group. Anyway, on to Colorado, which was won by Clinton in 16 by somewhat. It was about as competitive as people expected it to be, between 3 and 5%. The difference. That said, something interesting that I've noted in looking at the margins was that Gary Johnson did well enough, along with Evan McMullin to an extent, that there's a good argument to be made that Trump could have won Colorado in 16 without as significant third party vote splitting as actually did happen. But the other argument to be made is that not all third party voters who voted for Johnson in 16 would necessarily be Trump voters in other years or Republican voters in other years. Because Johnson wound up having a somewhat broad appeal, because truthfully, while I would say the majority of the additional libertarian vote in 16 were Republicans who didn't want to vote for Trump but weren't going to vote for Clinton. There was a sizable portion of Clinton, normal Democratic voters who weren't going to vote for Clinton and who definitely were not going to vote for Trump. So there was a decent amount of protest vote in swing states like, and just across the nation in general, of the two major parties. Which is a little bit weird, but especially considering what the Libertarian Party platform is, but moving back to what's going to happen in 2020, well, obviously, what we need to remember is that it is a state that is becoming more and more blue. Part of it's there is a increasing Hispanic population, which it means a little bit more in the Southwest, Texas as well, Florida too. And that group of voters tends to vote more Democratic than the nation as a whole. Colorado is also a somewhat more educated state. Sure, they have a Republican senator, but he was swept in 2014. It was either 2014 or it was 2014, and Cory Gardner is probably not going to win his election in November. More than likely, he'll lose to Hickenlooper. And I don't expect Donald Trump to win the state as a whole, simply because it's becoming a little too blue. But there is a possible route to victory that I can see for Trump in Colorado, but it's not the easiest lift. It's not an easy state to carry for him. It'd be much easier for him to carry Minnesota or New Hampshire. I would even argue it's easier for him to carry Nevada, and I think most people would say that's accurate. And you could even make the argument that it's easier for him to carry Virginia, but Colorado is not going to be a state that votes red unless something really crazy happens. And Southwest is just turning into a place that likes to vote for Democrats. But we'll see what exactly happens and what the polling environment looks like. Because people were expecting Clinton to truly blow Trump out with the Hispanic vote, and that wasn't the case. I mean, it was a blowout, don't get me wrong, but it was more competitive than I think people expected. And part of that is because Hispanics are notoriously hard to poll for a lot of reasons, be it contacting them, making sure you've got English and Spanish language versions of the questions, and all this other stuff. And that's where groups like Latino Decisions and Univision, all those groups that poll Hispanics specifically, that's kind of where they come in. And there's some interesting data that they've released that indicates that, hey, maybe Trump isn't doing so badly among this group of voters, despite what the media would call racism, xenophobia. Whether it is or not, it's not my place to comment on. I don't like putting my own subjectiveness on a style of speaking or campaigning, if that makes any sense. But this election, if Trump wins Colorado, it's going to be won in Arapahoe County, Arapahoe or Adams. Probably Adams, because Arapahoe, this county right here, is a little too blue. Adams could flip, but I seriously doubt it. But yeah, so that's kind of the way I see Colorado shaking out. Is it's going to be blue by about 5-ish%, somewhere in that range. We'll see exactly what happens with former third-party voters from 2016. I think that's a group that's going to wind up voting Trump more than they do Biden for a lot of reasons. But at the end of the day, we will see. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time. As always, likes, comments, subscriptions really do help as we approach 400, and I'd love to see that by the end of the month. So, whether that happens, that's a different question. Anyway, have a nice day, everyone.